second. Get this view happening. Is this happening? Yep. No. There we go. All right. All right, here we are. Episode 906,000 million. Real singers on singing. I haven't done one of these in so long. And I'm glad that we get to do it again. Craig Sirianni, vocal coach, opera singer, rock singer. I haven't, like I said, I haven't done one of these in so long. So it's good. I want to start this up again. I just never have anybody to interview. I always feel like I've done a couple interviews and they didn't go great, so I didn't even put them up. You know, it's got to be fun and like exciting to me, you know. So,
I haven't had one with you yet. That wasn't fun and exciting. I don't know why I got headphones on. Let me pull these out. I don't need these on.
So I don't even know. Like I said, I don't even know what number this is. But so for those of you that haven't, if you didn't know about Craig Sirianni in the past, give us a quick synopsis of your singing career. Just, you know, so it doesn't have to be as detailed as we did it last time. Just what you did, you know, where you've been, what you've been doing, that kind of thing.
I was originally in a music school, SUNY Fredonia, and wasn't sure which direction I wanted to go. I eventually landed in the music department, not originally because I wanted to be in there, but because I wanted to be in the sound recording department, but you had to be a music major first. So I did that end run. And then I ended up loving studying voice so much, I forgot about the recording and just went into voice. But, you know, like so many millions of other people, I left and struck out thinking I was going to have a career with a university-trained voice. And that's when I went to New York and found out that that was a disaster and a joke. Listen, I trashed everybody last time, all the university stuff, so I'm not going to do that again today. Everybody knows my take on that.
Right.
But, yeah, I found out about, Lamonaco through, actually I'd seen one of his students singing on the stage of the Met. He won the Richard Tucker Gala that year, and that was Jerry Hadley. And we had never seen a technique like that before. I was sitting on the couch with my parents. He starts singing, and we're all going, "Oh my God, look at this guy go!" And you know, the jaw positions, they were all different than anything I'd ever seen before. But it wasn't really about that. It was the most beautiful sound I had heard.
Right.
The guy made a sound that I was just like, "Oh my God, listen, who is this?" And that's when my mother was like, "Okay, you need to find out who's training these guys. Go where the winners are. Go find out who's training these guys. What do you got to lose? All I can do is say no, whatever." So anyway, I found Hadley. Hadley introduced me to Lamonaco. I went to New York. I sang the worst audition imaginable. He asked me what I wanted to sing. And when I drummed up enough courage to speak, I said, "I'll sing the first act aria from Bohème, Che gelida manina." He's like, "Okay, lad, whenever you're ready, go ahead." And the pianist went, and I went, "Che gelida manina," and Lamonaco went. He leaned in, and inside I died. I went, "Oh man, he's leaning in. He can't even hear me over the piano. This is a stupid idea. I'm leaving." And so, anyway, he sat me down and we talked all about music, and he told me everything he liked about what I did, and I did a lot of good things. But the one main thing I didn't have that a lot of people don't was any kind of real vocal development. And he's like, he's telling me all these wonderful things in the same breath. He's like, "But your voice is horribly underdeveloped." I'm like, "See, we don't have any point of reference for that. That's the problem, and that problem still remains today. There's the people that are teaching they're not necessarily people who have a point of reference."
You know what's funny about that story is, I had the same experience with a teacher. I had studied with like a boatload of teachers from America, all the pops teachers and stuff I went to. It was all garbage. And then I went to go see my daughter. We took a vacation. She was in Spain. And I found out there was this opera teacher. He was kind of famous, and he was right down the street from where we were in Barcelona. And I said, I got to go to this guy. So I got his number.
You're a madman.
And he didn't speak any English. So my wife and daughter both speak. They can understand Spanish just a little bit and speak it a little bit. So he said, no, teach. I'm not going to teach you. And I'm like, come on, I'll take 2 lessons this week. I'm here for like 10 days. I'm in Barcelona. I could take one now. And then when we come back to Barcelona, I'll take another one. Okay, if you come now. I said, okay, I'll come right now. So I went, brought my wife with me. And he goes, okay, sing something. And it's the same thing. I went, Caro mio ben, credi mio. And he goes, sang a little bit. Okay. Oh, that's very pretty, he says. And he says in English, pretty, not your voice. And then he goes, and then he lets out a blah. It's like, and he's like 70 years old. And all of a sudden the room shakes. And my wife looks at me, and I'm like, yeah, I didn't do that.
That's what Lamonaco did to me. That was the first lesson. He's like, listen, lad, your voice, you don't really have a point of reference. He goes, your voice is horrible. Come on over here to the piano. He goes, don't ask me any questions. Just take a look at what I'm doing. Do the best you can. See if you can make this sound. And Lamonaco's like 75, right?
Right.
You know, and literally he goes, he goes, do that for me. And I went, no fucking way.
Right.
He's like, what do you mean no? I was like, my first thought was, oh my God, that must hurt like hell.
Right.
Because that's what you think if you don't know anything about the technique that you're looking at. You hear a sound that big, you watch a guy do it, and if you don't know any point of reference, your very first thought is, that's got to be painful. And that, Daniel, is what keeps most opera singers, singing with the emergency brakes on. They still are laboring under that wives' tale that if they sing too loud or too much or whatever, that the world is going to end, they're going to lose their voice immediately. You have no idea how much abuse you got to, well, you do, because you're a singer, but you got to beat your voice to hell before you start having any kind of real issues. And yet, Lamonaco, I mean, he explained it all. He was like, listen, what holds everybody back in operatic technique, let's limit it to that, not heavy metal or rock or anything, but in operatic technique, he's like, it's mostly fear. He's like, people have been told that they're going to hurt their voice. They're afraid to sing out. They think they might hurt their voice. It's all fear based. And
right.
So that's why he set up his lessons the way he did. You were expected to walk in out of the street when he called you in, and you go, hey, Tom, what's going on? You go, hey, lad, how you doing? All right, sing here. And he wanted, I mean, right off the street, full blast. There was no easing in.
So there was no.
No.
No,
no.
there was no. There was no.
No, there was
no straw technique.
No. There was no rainbow shooting out of my ass or out of the top of my head.
With like holding the string in the head and then no, that wasn't happening.
And we've talked about this before in our time together. Lamonaco was a genius because he made the technique physical. And when you make the technique physical, it's something that you understand and it becomes repeatable. When it becomes repeatable, it becomes dependable. And then when you become dependable, probably the greatest compliment I ever got was, you are the most consistent singer we've ever had here. You sound exactly the same every night. And I was like, thank you.
Right.
That meant that was
that's what we all want. I mean, that's all. Me as a singer, since I started, I think every time I walked into a vocal lesson and the teacher would say, what are you looking to get out of this? I would go consistency. That was literally the first thing that would come out of my mouth. I'm like, I sing, 3-4 nights a week, and I'm different every night. I don't want to be like that anymore, and that was huge for me. That was a huge thing. And actually teaching today, I taught a student, and you know, we were talking about this because he was having, he's, well, I hit a A4 yesterday, but today I can only get to the F sharp, and then it's again. And I said, listen, I go, the one thing I've learned from the technique that I've learned, the techniques that I've learned, and the technique that I kind of like to teach, I go, is that I can wake up and just pretty much hit that B flat and just go boink right at it. I'm not fearful of it. I'm not scared of it. Do I sing great? You know, do I like, is my consistency like, oh, he's an amazing singer all the time, like say Dino Jalusic, who's a great rock singer that I love. I did an interview with him a few years back, and you know, that guy opens his mouth, he always sounds great. My buddy Joe Retta opens up his mouth, he always sounds great. Do I do that? No, I don't sound great every time I open my mouth, but I have a consistency at least I can mark at. I can go, well, at least that's there. You know what I mean? I have that, and that was through a lot of trial and error, but closer to what you were talking about.
Yeah, and
being physical.
Because, you know, you were smart to say that for the very first off. I want consistency, because that's what I'm saying. The greatest gift Lamonaco ever gave me was not necessarily the voice or the career, but the ability to step out in front of 3,000 people, and he took away my stage fright. That's huge.
Yeah.
Psychologically speaking, I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
But that's how comfortable he made you feel in the technique. And I think I told you this before too. My first Aida, when I walked out, I mean, I was so nervous, my hands were shaking. Didn't make any, but it didn't make any difference. This was just a, you know, I don't know, some kind of weird response. But what was really all important was the way I was trained. Whether this was going on or not, I walked out, and as soon as you sing the first note, you're done. You're good.
Yeah.
You're like, say your pussy. Okay, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I got this.
Yeah.
But that first second, it's always a little bit dicey.
And here's the thing, though. So, getting into technique and what you're talking about being physical, okay? And so when you first did the first couple things that you demonstrated today, right? I wouldn't say that's the prettiest sound, but I've heard you sing arias on your YouTube page. I watch, and your voice is beautiful.
Oh, listen, these are short.
Exactly. No. So here's the thing. So, and like with Hadley's the same way. I mean, go listen to anything by him. I mean, what a gorgeous voice. Whether it was classical or Broadway style, he had a beautiful voice.
Well, he loved Broadway. He loved it.
Oh, yeah, no, he had a gorgeous voice, right? So take me through that. Take me through this physical, like the way you did it, very physical, very open, very strong, but then you're able to sing a Quarangrato like beautifully, right? Like, what is that like? Did you feel that way when you met him with Lamonaco and you saw him do this thing? You were like, well, how am I going to make that? Or any time in your career, let's put it that way, because I get this from students. Well, if I sing that supported and that loud, that strong, what if I want to sound pretty, right? I'm sure you get that in your students come to you and they say, well, I want to sing like Di Stefano. I want to sing beautiful like young Di Stefano, right?
Yeah. You know what? You bring up a very, very important point about vocal study, Daniel, and that is this. A lot of people, most people will make the mistake of thinking that studying a piece or working on a piece means practicing it already at how shall we say, performance level and performance polish. Okay, that's a mistake. You can't do that. Okay, what you have to, I'm talking about opera, not talking about any other no other vocal form, but in opera, that's why we spent that amount of time with Lamonaco. It was mostly the first part was all bodybuilding. It's like the gym. It was like vocal building. That's it. In other words, if I went to Lamonaco and said, you know, help me work on Che Gelida Manina, and you know, let's work on it with my nicely polished voice that I have now, it would have been the exact same thing. It wouldn't have changed. It's like going to the gym and lifting an empty bar.
Okay, like the first line to that aria.
Che gelida manina. Yeah.
It's not.
I sang for him. I sang. Che gelida. Lack of chest voice. Che gelida manina. Now I wouldn't sing it like that on stage, but I'm demonstrating to you the difference between wimpy chest voice and real chest voice.
And when you get up to, so in the technique, because I've known you long enough, we talked about this, I studied with you a little bit. It's keeping chest voice engaged even though you're in a cover when you get higher.
That's right.
Right. So when you're going, when it goes, right? When you're doing something like that and it's still beautiful, are you still that buzz that you have in your chest voice, what you just did on the low parts, are you trying to keep that same buzz as you go higher, or are you going to is it buzzing for you physically in another place? If you know what I'm talking about, if that makes any sense.
When you change registration in the voice, yeah, you feel the sensation in a different place between chest notes and covered notes. Yeah, they feel like they're in a different spot. But no, to answer what I think was the first part of your question is no, you strive. The idea is whether you're in chest or covered voice, you've got to have that same amount of ping.
Yes.
That squillo or ping.
Yes.
So yeah, it's easier in chest voice. That's our normal speaking voice. So that's just our speaking voice amplified is what chest voice is. You can't take chest voice up full voice in operatic volume past a certain point or you'll be screaming. That's why we cover.
Right. Gotcha.
Did that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So on a note, like, okay, Corelli being famous for his diminuendo, like on high B flats and stuff like that. You know what I mean? How he would soar up to this big note and then right pull.
I don't know if I'm warmed up. I've been singing all day, Daniel.
Oh, okay.
You leave the position alone, but you starve the air supply. A lot of people get this wrong too. They think that you close the jaw to diminuendo. If you close the jaw, you lose control.
Okay.
Jaw opening allows control of vibrato, but if you start closing, then you're changing all of the parameters. I'm only changing one, just the breath supply.
And how are you doing? And what would you say is doing that? The outward motion of the below the abdomen.
Yeah, when you're supporting, you got the appoggio. That when the B flat's loud, you're leaning out on it.
Right.
When I want to pull it back, I just lessen my air supply. I lessen the support. I pull back on it. Now, it's not necessarily a healthy thing to do. I don't think LaMonica would have ever approved, but the people go crazy when they hear that. They love that.
Yeah, you need to do. There's a video of Corelli doing it for so long.
He's a master at that. I mean,
it was a freak at it. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And the same with Di Stefano was like that as well. Like the beauty of his voice. You know what I mean? That's
gorgeous.
Yeah, that's an instrument. And a lot of people here. So here's another thing. A lot of people think because you have great technique, I mean you or anyone else with great technique, that you're supposed to be able to do what all these other guys do. What Corelli did, what Di Stefano did. It's like, no, you got your voice. Your instrument's going to do something special.
Yeah, no, what you got to do, your job is to figure out what your strengths are and maximize those and stay away from the things that you have a hard time with.
Yeah.
If you don't do a decrescendo very well, then just don't do one.
What do you consider some of your strengths when you were so back to your career? So you studied with LaMonica and then you made your debut. Where was your debut?
The Amato Opera Company in New York.
In New York. Okay. And then
I always sang leading roles, but I started with small companies. The other famous opera singer who's I share that same past with is Neil Shikoff.
Oh, okay.
Neil Shikoff made his debut at the Amato Opera Company, and then went on to become very famous.
Right. And you had, and then where else in your career? Where else did you sing in your career?
Oh hell, I started with small companies, then in New York, then regional companies, what most opera singers do, and then you start hoping that the bigger companies open up. La Scala did in 1995. I made my
what role did you sing there?
Dick Johnson, Girl of the Golden West. No, I lied. Pinkerton, Man and Butterfly.
Okay.
I sang Fanciulla, A Girl of the Golden West with La Scala, but when they took that to Japan. But in Italy, at La Scala, it was Man and Butterfly.
And you sang with there was a picture of you with Pavarotti. Where did you sing with him? It was like a special thing, right?
There was a concert that he did in Edmonton, Alberta. One of the other big highlights I always held really dear to my heart in my career was that I can remember the day when I had been singing long enough where I was home and I got a phone call that they needed Placido Domingo to be replaced.
Can I ask you about it? Yeah.
And I was like, yeah.
I mean, come on. That doesn't get any bigger.
Wait, hang on. Let me check my schedule. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was that. And that was in LA, right? That was Los Angeles? Was it Los Angeles? You did something with Domingo in Los Angeles, I know, right?
Well, the very first way I met Placido was when he took over Costa Mesa Opera Pacific in Costa Mesa.
Okay.
And he became the general director. And he had heard me for some things there and hired me for them there. And then when he decided he was going to make his conducting debut, which was huge.
Yeah.
I mean, he hired me as the tenor, and it was Bohème. Now, Domingo, he had recorded Bohème like 1,000,000 times. Can you imagine the pressure? I mean, and sing it for a guy who's been recording a role like his whole life. But you know what? Like most guys like this you'll meet, he was so comfortable in his skin that we had a great time together. He was like, Craig, come on, let's go. We go out to eat now. Come on, let's go. That was it. I mean, we guys like that are that know they're doing well and they're comfortable in their skin.
Yeah.
They don't make you uncomfortable. They're not tyrants. I mean, we got along great. We had a great time.
Who was the soprano in the role when you sang Bohème? Do you remember? I'm just asking random questions now, but I got actual other questions. But yeah.
Now you're testing my my memory, Daniel. Callan Asparian.
Oh, okay. I don't know who that is, but I'll check it out now. Actually, that's kind of cool.
Can't believe I remembered that.
All right, so that's cool. So I was going to ask you. So I asked you about what about? It's kind of back to this. Like you train like a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
So when you're coming in and you're singing these scales with all that, oomph, let's say, when you go to sing, are you thinking that, or are you thinking something else? Are you thinking the lyric? Are you thinking, I don't know, sweeter, or I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a tough question. My answer would be you have to kind of think about both of them, because you have to be incredibly interpretive, but you can't lose yourself in the interpretation and all of a sudden start realizing that you're not making that full sound anymore. So your responsibility is to both, really.
Did you when you studied the role, did you study a lot of the older singers to go learn kind of what they were doing?
Yeah.
When you do a role? Yeah, that was something. Was there anyone in general that you listened to a lot of?
It would depend on what I wanted to hear. If I wanted to hear sheer vocal prowess, I'd listen to Delmonico. If it was, I wanted to hear the most amazing, effortless high notes in the world, I'd listen to Corelli. But you'd be surprised. There are some, like for example, if I really want to, when you're learning a roll, you want to be careful that you're not listening to a recording where somebody's doing, a great job at pyrotechnics, but not necessarily what's written in the score. Because when you show up for a gig, the conductor is going to bust your ass for that. So, not more often than not, honestly, Daniel, I would listen to Domingo because he was one of the best musicians.
So he's following the score.
Yeah.
Pretty note for note.
And whether or not,
he's not taking a lot of liberties.
Yeah, and whether or not I listened to the technique or not, which I didn't because I always tried to stay within my own, I would listen to guys that I thought were the most musical so I wouldn't pick up any bad habits or learn anything incorrectly or hear something wrong. It's a lot of times you learn these things and they get stuck in your head. It's very hard to unlearn a wrong note. I mean,
yeah. Oh no, I know that. Yeah, I sing on the wrong notes, and then if I listen back to my take of it, I gotta watch it. I go listen to someone else. I have a friend sing it. Can you sing this so I can stop listening? What was I gonna ask you? Like you just said something that made a lot of sense. Listening to them, you're not listening to them mainly for technique. Was there anyone that you would listen to? If you took Domingo technique, because you were around Domingo a lot, so his technique, did it differ a lot from your technique, or was it pretty similar?
It was not really very similar. Anyone who's not trained in, and again, I want to address something else. So the bookmark, because I want to circle back to this. But anyone who's not trained in Lamonico is not going to be doing the same technique. It's not going to be the same tongue positions. In fact, it's funny because I was with Domingo and we were talking one day in rehearsal. And he says, "Craig, I used to have a very bad problem. I used to flip the tongue up to sing high notes." And I said, "Yeah, I know. Plus, I got a lot of videos of you doing that." Now, back then I wasn't a teacher, so I would never presume to make any suggestions. All I was just saying was, yeah, I understand. He was explaining how it took him a long time to, get that kind of straightened out. I was going to circle back to something else.
We're circling back to listen, like the difference in technique, sitting down with someone like Domingo and saying like how much different was the technique that you learned from their techniques?
Yeah, like I said, unless it was Lamonico to retracted tongue and high tongue, which is not being really taught anymore. All the techniques were different.
And that was sort of a Stan. Okay, so so now we're gonna get nitty gritty and go back on my craziness. I always go down YouTube rabbit holes.
Oh boy,
I used to, but I don't do too much.
I try to avoid those.
And all the books I have on the shelf, which don't do me any help. They hurt more harm than me. So you got, look, I have the Douglas Stanley book, and Douglas Stanley is kind of like you talk about the tool that they made.
You mean that one?
Yeah. Yep. So that comes from Stanley, right?
That's how that works.
Yeah, that comes from Stanley, right? And then did Delmonico study with him? You studied with him? No, we didn't. His brother?
Melocchi.
Lamonico studied with
Lamonico or Delmonico?
No. Lamonico.
Yeah, Stanley.
Studied with Stanley. Now, how different is Melocchi? There's been videos done on this. How different is Melocchi to Stanley? Or Melocchi to Lamonico?
Jeepers. How much time do we have? I mean, there are a lot of similarities. There are a lot of differences. And that's what I want. Thank you. That's what I wanted to circle back to. A lot of people, when I say like, okay, I try and teach Lamonico technique, and everyone's saying, listen, Craig, well, why do you say that? Let's call it the Sirianni technique. Call it the Sirianni singing method. I'm like, no, because it's not. It's not. It's got nothing to do with me. I do the best I can to regurgitate what I did with Tom because I did it longer than anybody else in that studio that I know of. But
So talking about Maloki, the differences.
that's it. So whenever you take on a vocal technique and you say, okay, I teach the Lomonico technique.
Right.
And I know I put it on YouTube like that, and I kind of clickbaited it a little bit, and I wanted to get people interested. But the truth is, when you start passing down, these vocal traditions, they're all going to change slightly. You're going to give it's going to be now filtered through me.
Right.
Now, what I do some different things in the lessons. I do Lomonico, but I also do Maloki. See, Tommy never did that, and it's a damn shame he didn't. But see, here's the thing. It's easy for us now to go on YouTube and look up all these, Maloki exercises. How the hell would you do that before the internet existed? You'd have to get a book, maybe, and then maybe, figure out, whatever. But you know what? It's so easy to do this now.
Yeah.
And so, and not for nothing, Daniel, but, some of these Maloki exercises worked out some kinks that I still had in my voice that never got worked out because Lomonico, because we didn't do them.
When you're talking about the Maloki technique, so I know he was a big proponent about using the deep oo vowel. Is that something that you worked with when you were studying it?
Only for about 2 years. I'm telling you, Daniel, it was Lomonico was like, okay, good. Now sing it dark. I'm like, dark, okay. Now sing it louder. I'm like, Tom, if I sing this any louder or any darker, I'm going to wet myself.
Yeah.
And he's
so
like,
so there's the darkness, right? So the brightness came from what? The A vowel? That's what you worked on the A vowel a lot?
Well, no, see, the thing is, everybody comes in tight. Everybody does, including me, yours truly. Everybody comes in tight. So the very first thing Lomonico would do would be he'd use the instrument, he'd work you on dark vowels. Dark vowels will release the voice.
Okay.
And in the release of the voice, that's how the voice builds. If you keep the voice tight and constrained, it will never build any size at all.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's what the darkness is for. But then eventually, after all that work and all that training, you kind of see. I always believed that Lomonico was so smart that he overbuilt us on purpose, knowing in his head that when we walked down, see, if you were here when you walked in, sucking, and you wanted to be here, world-class singer, Lomonico pushed you out to about here, knowing that when you walked out on stage, you would probably still have a little bit of stage fright or whatever, bringing you back to here, which is exactly where he wanted you the whole time.
Right.
That's how these guys worked. So all the lessons are exaggerated. The Maloki, when you working on anything with Lomonico, it was always, okay, let's do a couple lines from this aria. But you couldn't interpret anything. He'd yell at you. He's like, no, mezzo forte. When you're working on a roll, you do the whole thing forte all the way through.
Right.
To get the thing in your voice. He's like, when you want to start screwing around with it and doing all your decrescendos and all your fancy stuff, he goes, that's the icing on the cake. Save that for later. Learn where the notes are now and where the sound is now by singing it mezzo forte all the way through. And then you can play with it later, but only when you've got it mastered now.
Right. So even Corelli said when he worked with some of the Maloki stuff, he only worked with him a couple times. He didn't use it all, he said. He goes, I wouldn't use, he said he did, like on the articles that you read, he said they wouldn't use it all. He would meet with Lori Volpe all the time, and then they would discuss technique. So I think he would kind of use that for the strength, the Maloki stuff for the strength, but then get with Volpe for the sweetness. Which he obviously had.
Yeah. Listen, everybody thinks their voice teacher is the greatest teacher in the whole world, and I'm no exception, but none of them are infallible. There are places in my voice that we really never got completely straightened out, but by researching a little bit of Maloki and bringing that in, that's helped tremendously. I'll give you an example. There's a spot in the bottom of every tenor's voice that's kind of uncomfortable, which is why I thought this exercise was so brilliant, this Maloki. Because that's a spot of the voice where it's really kind of tricky to get into.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. I sang Fanciulla all over the place. You know the aria Che mi creda, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, tu bella mia vita, and then the end would go like this. And I could never get that low note right. I'd be on stage going, mio solo fia, fio, fia. I didn't know where it was. Not until I started doing Malocchi. And it's the exact same spot. Mio solo fior. That's Malocchi. That's who taught me how to do that.
So you're doing there, you're doing, is it an aw or is it an ah?
No aw.
Aw. Yeah.
It's funny because in the video you hear Malocchi in the background go, he's speaking Italian and you could barely hear him. He goes, okay. And then he goes, ah, and the singer goes, ah, right? He goes right after it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, that's okay. So that's good. So that makes a lot of sense. Where else are we going here? Okay. Favorite.
I got something for you.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that the guys that I teach, they're always sending me videos all the time, all day long. Here's this new tenor, this guy, this other guy, and I always play them. I listen to them all. And I don't know that it's true that nobody else is out there teaching what I am. I'd like to think that that's not true. But with the dearth of teachers teaching these unique tongue positions, I'm here to tell you, Danny, I've been listening to some of these recordings lately, and we are almost in fear of losing the E vowel. Because unless you understand how to lift the back of the tongue up, so, for example, somebody sent me a recording the other day. It was Recondita Armonia. I'm not going to say who it was.
Okay.
But, E bruna florio l'ardente amante mia. Now the next phrase is et te, right? Et te beltà degnoto. You know what I'm hearing now? I'm hearing this. L'ardente amante mia. Et te beltà degnoto. That's a tongue that's not moving. That's a tongue that's not moving. You can make all the sound you want to, but if you don't know how to manipulate the tongue, you're not going to get those vowels. And so we are really in fear of losing a real E vowel. If you're not taught to lift the tongue in the back, you can't sing that E like this, like they show you in school. It will never work. It will never work. It never worked then. It doesn't work now. It will never work.
Yeah.
So,
well, what is that? A or B flat?
A natural.
What is it?
A natural.
Oh, yeah.
So those are the two vowels, A and O. But if you don't know how to move your tongue, you're screwed. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's just the way it works.
Yep.
You can't, if you don't understand how to form vowels with your tongue, then you end up getting that sound that I made for you.
Yeah, it sounds stuffed. So why? Sometimes you hear that, like you hear these certain singers and they sound all stuffed up, and I don't like that. I don't like that sound. You know what I mean? But and then they could be pretty famous opera singers or teachers, and they sound kind of stuffed. And do you think that's all the tongue, or do you think that has to do they're trying to depress the larynx? What do you think about that? Because obviously I know, you know, depending on the school, but you know, a lot of we kind of understand the larynx should just the way I think it just should sit there. It doesn't have to be buried like, you know, you would see some singers burying it.
Well, in opera, it gets buried. Look.
No, I get it.
It goes down.
But if it goes down the wrong way, like with the root of the tongue or something pushing it, don't you think that could mess with that kind of sound and make it over darkened?
Yeah, and you'd have to, and to answer your question the right way, we'd have to take it a case by case basis. You'd have to play me examples, right. and I could tell you, okay, that's a depressed larynx. Okay, right. There's a guy who's not pulling his tongue back. There's a guy who is over covering, over darkening.
That's what I'm saying. So that's what could happen if you get the. There's no brightness in that sound.
That was pretty good though, Daniel. I liked it. That's pretty good.
Yeah, thanks. But I mean, that to me, when I don't hear that in the singers I like, in the opera singers I like. I hear more like yours. It's brighter. It's got this. I'm not gonna say forward placement, but it's shining here. It's not shining here.
It's squealo.
Yeah, exactly.
Plain and simple, squealo. That's all.
Do you find that some people can kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater and get stuck in that position and lose the squealo?
All the time.
Yeah. So what is your correction for that? Because that's huge. That's such a huge thing. You know what I mean? That's a big problem.
Dark. Well, I had a guy today, for example.
Okay.
Good question, because I had a guy today. And he was singing the Flower Song. And great singer, you know, really, really good tenor. But you know, sometimes we just drift. I mean, we're human. We can't carry our instrument around in a case. So, you know, that's why you have a teacher. You can't do this on your own. You can't work in a vacuum. So the guy starts singing today. Beautiful voice, but he's going.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm like, hang on. I go, that's beautiful. Now, try it with your jaw all the way open. And he went. It's a case by case basis, though, Danny. You know, everybody's different. Everybody's doing the wrong thing differently, so you got to kind of figure out what they're doing and then go from there.
Do you find like an O vowel tends to always? Well, I noticed it a lot in my own voice. My O vowel sinks. If I could never sing an O again, I'd be so happy because it just sinks.
That's why I tell I still work with a couple of rock guys, and the very first thing is always the same thing. They want to go over some really high stuff, but they're singing dark vowels on the top. I'm like, no, you can't sing an O that high and expect your voice to stay bright enough in the rock realm. So you guys have to modulate a lot. You have not modulate. You have to
modify.
Thank you. You have to modify a lot. Really, and it's always toward the A vowel, in my opinion.
Yep.
Always.
Yeah.
Soldiers, right? It's always toward A. If you start singing dark up there,
you're singing Striper. That's awesome.
And if you talk about a wonderful example of modifying. Okay, if you sang the words the way they were supposed to be sung in those tones, soldiers, right?
Yeah.
So we don't sing anything like the word is, but we try to sell the audience on the fact that we are, but we're really not. Soldiers, under command.
Yeah, exactly. See?
Bunch of modifying, that's all.
Yep. That's so funny. I had rock singing on here with you that I was going to talk to you about, but you just talked about it, which is good. What about, you know what? Because you talked about Domingo, and you guys talked a little bit about technique. When you met Pavarotti, you guys didn't talk about technique together at all?
No, he actually was a little bit busier.
Yeah, he would have to get in and get out probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a concert situation where he was kind of like in and out, and I didn't really get to spend too much time with him at all. But I did sing Non Piangere Liu from Turandot while he sat in the audience in one of the rehearsals, and I held, because I knew he was there, I held that B flat for about 3 days. And he came back up in his golf cart, and he went, "Ma, bravo, tenore, bravo." That's all I wanted.
Nice.
I just wanted
nice.
to sing a B flat. I love Pavarotti. I thought he was amazing.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Amazing.
yeah, absolutely.
In fact, he was instrumental in getting me. He was the first guy I really got interested in the operatic realm. And then once I told my parents I started getting interested in opera, my father, I mean, he knew all about this stuff. He sent me my first Corelli album. And the first song on it was Cor Ingrato, because it was Corelli's Neapolitan album. And I played Cor Ingrato. I never even heard it before. And I went,
I think I've heard that record. I gotta get listen to that record.
It's white. It's a white.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I don't think for some. And I always look for those records, like the Stefano's records, the early ones where he would do all those songs. And I'm always looking for that stuff. I like that stuff a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So now I got to look at. I didn't know, why have I not looked for the Corelli one? Is bizarre. Yeah, I want to go look for that now.
First time I'd ever heard that sound. I was in college, and I'm thinking, oh my God, am I expected to make that sound? And then my dad sends me a Delmonico album.
Oh, cool.
I never heard any of these guys before, and I was like, oh my God. And it was Vesti La Juba was the first cut on that one, I think.
Oh, that's insane. What about the first? So when you got in the room with Delmonico for the first time, was that the first time you heard a real opera singer in your face?
Yep.
That's amazing. I to this day, every time I meet an opera singer, you know, that's doing something out there, and I get in their face and I say, sing something for me, or like when I was in Spain, and and that teacher, it's always amazing to me the amount of energy. And I try to explain that to students, new students that come, and I'm like, it's it's not rocket science. It's energy. It's energy. You know what I mean? And you can't be afraid to use that energy. You wouldn't be afraid to use that energy if you were swinging a bat and playing baseball. You'd be putting weights on the bat, swinging the bat.
See, this brings me to the next greatest point, and I think we've talked about this too. These analogies are ridiculously laughable in everything else, including the one you just brought up, sports. I make them all the time. How reasonable is it, to think you're going to, well, let's use yours was great. Yours was great. I used to teach girls that were competitive swimmers, okay? And I'd warm them up. They'd be ripping at the piano. And then they'd start singing, and they'd go, Petrai Carino. I said, wait a minute. I say, what do you do in school? You're a competitive swimmer? She's like, yeah. I said, so that means you're like in a race? She's like, yeah. So when you jump in the water, so what you're saying is you're not swimming.
You don't sink.
You're not swimming nonchalant, right? Oh, no, it's work. How is everything else allowed to be work and this not?
Well, think about this. This is my favorite one. Benching. Being on a bench. If I got a spotter and I'm about to take just, I don't know, 160 or whatever off the bar, off the thing, right? I'm not going to let the spotter take it, and then my arms are locked out, and then I'm just going to go, and let the freaking weight just fall on my chest. I want to be like this, right? And then, but how does that guy lift, 400 pounds? Because he's really going, and you're just going, right?
And I don't know if I've made this analogy before either, Daniel, and I'm not trying to get you thrown off YouTube or anything, but it's a lot like sex. Okay? Put it that way.
I don't know anything about that.
Well, I do.
Ask my wife.
I do. Let's put it this way. Let's make that same analogy. Okay?
Right.
If you're planning on having a good time upstairs, but nobody's willing to put out any effort at all, who's going to have a good time?
Yeah.
You follow me?
Yeah.
No,
Well,
I'm not say. I'm not gonna get.
well,
I'm not gonna get thrown out, but
no, how about this one? And then I'm gonna go refill my glass of wine. How about this one? You're gonna go upstairs in the room, and the guy that's gonna come out successful is gonna put the work in. He's gonna put in the work, right? The guy that wants the easy work, he's gonna take the little blue pill. He wants the quick fix.
yeah, we don't have a blue pill for opera yet.
You know what I mean? Well, but a lot of times, in a way, you get students and they want a quick fix. Like, how to do this so quick? It's like, I'll do the best. My job is give you a roadmap, do the best that I can to get you off and running as quickly as possible. But we don't have a little. There's no fix. There's no fix on guitar. If I pick up that guitar, when I first picked up what I do to my students, I'll do this. I'll go. This is the best. I'll go, look. Right now, if I just play my guitar and you say play, right? Well, ask me to do it like this. I'm not. It's going to take me a bit. I can see the chords.
Holy shit!
Not able to get my hands there, right? What would I have to do? It would take weeks of practice. Yeah. I can play lefty. There's no reason I can't play lefty. I just don't. But if I said I would have to put the work in, I think a lot of times people are afraid of putting that work in. They go, I want to sing these high notes, but I feel like I'm working too hard. Well, if it was easy to sing fucking high notes, everybody would be a singer.
There's nothing. The first thing I tell any new student I get is, listen, if you're one of those singers that's waiting for singing to start to feel natural, you might as well forget it. What's natural about this?
Nothing. No.
What's natural about
What's natural about covering?
Nothing.
Nothing. That is, when I first felt that, I was like, well, that's not what natural feels like. Natural feels like, hey, that's natural. If I just take my that would be natural, right? I'm not doing anything. Covering does not feel like that. No, it's got a thing.
I really don't know who perpetuated this whole wives' tale about singing is the only thing in the whole world that you're not supposed to expend any effort or any energy on at all. I really don't get that. There's a wonderful video of Delmonico in a rehearsal. There's a female conductor. I don't know who it is. And he's rehearsing some songs for a concert. And he just finishes rehearsing the Butterfly aria. He's on that B flat. He holds it for like 100. Granted, it's Delmonico. He holds it for like 100 years. Al tuo squadron. He goes, son me. Right, and then right after he does that, it's Delmonico. He goes like this. Oh. Now wait. Here's the question.
Right.
What does that tell you? Delmonico was one of the strongest singers we ever had in history, and he's up there going, oh.
Yeah.
The guy's working. He's working. Corelli said he lost pounds of weight after every show. They're working. Work. It's work. When I went to La Monica, the work ethic is all different today. We talked about this before 2,000 times. When I went to Tom, I said, listen, I'm not leaving here till you make me a world-class singer. I can do a lot of things, fairly well, but I want to be able to do one thing better than most. So that's why I'm here. And if his next sentence had been, listen, you need to be prepared to spend at least 10 years in the studio if you want that kind of sound, my next sentence would have been, when can we start?
Right.
It wouldn't have made any difference to me. I mean, I was in the studio for a long time anyway, and I kept going back in between gigs. So I still had a 13-year relationship with La Monaco. So the mindset back then was different. But now, and La Monaco complained about this too. He'd get those calls too. He'd get those calls. Hey, I want to come in. I want to take one lesson and see what you're all about. He'd say, no,
Yeah.
No way. Giving somebody one Lamonaco lesson is like handing a kid a loaded gun.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's a big technique, and in one lesson, you're giving somebody just enough information to maybe hurt their own voice.
Yeah.
If they don't do it right.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Now, let me see. What else can I get to? There's one controversial thing, because I always get people on YouTube asking about it. And I'm not going to say his name, but there is a certain vocal teacher out there that says he was writing a book with Lamonaco, and that he studied with Lamonaco, and he's the only one that can teach this thing. And in one of the videos that I put up, I think it was in our talk, or one of our last podcasts, he called you a liar or something. So out of all the years that you spent, and how many years did you spend in Tom's studio?
Total about 13.
Did you ever hear or see this person?
Not once.
Not once. Not once.
And that's all I'm going to say, Daniel. I'm not going to say anything
Yeah,
else.
no, that's what I'm saying. Because of the fact that he mentioned that on the thing, and called you a liar, and then I went in and said, that's not nice. You don't do that. I just want to say, I'm going to ask,
If you got to diss other people to put yourself higher up on the food chain.
Right.
Really?
Well, I think it's also, there's a lot of vocal coaches, teachers, that will, obviously they want to talk themselves up. They want work like anybody else. We all want to get work, and we all want, do what we do, but they didn't have any type of career or actually get out there and sing and do anything. And you can't find anything on them. And then that kind of gets, that kind of gets squirrely. You know what I mean? So that's why I wanted to clear that up, because someone had mentioned they wanted to get you and that person on a podcast. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I like Craig, so I'm going to talk with Craig. And if this other person, I did a podcast with him as well, so his podcast was done out there, and which is fine. So I don't want any bad juice.
Listen, Daniel, there's plenty of room for all of us teachers out there.
Yeah.
There's plenty of room. There really is. I'm not out there dissing anybody. I'm not making fun of another teacher. I don't have time for that. I really don't. And, I'm happy with the studio I've got, with the work that I've got. I'm not involved in any YouTube controversy. I don't need to go out and prove anything, mostly because I've already done it.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's really the big difference. And again, I'm always going to fall back on that. I had the 25-year career on stage, so I have nothing to apologize for. But if you're trying to teach voice and you want to argue with me and you want to call me this or that, and you have not stepped foot on stage.
Yeah.
Really?
What when you retired, what was a decision to retire? Start a family? What was your decision back then?
My kids started showing up. And I was missing everything on the road. I missed every holiday. I missed with my original, my family. Every holiday, every special event, every birthday. And then, when my own kids were about to be born, I was like, you know what? I need to start slowing this down, and I need to spend more time at home. I can't miss this, because it's too important of a life thing to miss. And ironically, I did miss my son being born by one day.
Oh.
Because he came on the opening night of Bohemian, and they didn't have a cover for me, so I couldn't leave.
Yeah.
But my daughter I did see born.
Okay.
Which was amazing. And I can't imagine not having seen that. So that's why I slowed it down.
Okay. Now a couple of rapid fires, because we're going on. We're about an hour.
No, go ahead. You do whatever you need.
So just a couple of rapid fires. Favorite gig that you ever did?
Favorite gig. That would have to be Turandot at Lincoln Center.
Okay.
Turandot was always my favorite opera.
That
was amazing.
That was coming. Favorite opera. So you just told me that. Okay. Favorite aria to sing?
Boy, these are tough questions. Damn. You know what my honest answer is?
What?
I don't have a favorite aria. I have favorite Neapolitan songs, which,
Okay.
according to Delmonico, are even harder than arias.
Okay.
My favorite, Come bella montagna stanotte, bella così. Those are the things I really enjoy singing. I love arias, but I mean, the Neapolitan songs to me encapsulated so much passion
Okay.
and so much. I don't know.
All right.
Opera arias are they're all completely different colors in my head. They're all completely different.
Yeah. Favorite. What was I gonna say? A favorite. Favorite opera singer.
I got to go with Caruso.
Okay.
I gotta.
Favorite rock singer.
I gotta go with Dio.
Favorite rock song to sing.
Ooh.
Soldiers. My friend Matt Corey's gonna love that answer. He's a huge Striper fan.
You know, I have fallen into these other guys recently that sadly, and I'm kind of talking out of my ass right now because I really don't know the real facts, but I'm just making assumptions here because I had never really caught on to them until now, and I assume it's because they became really popular just when grunge hit, and so they kind of maybe fell into the crack for a minute.
Yep.
But have you ever heard Primal Fear?
Yeah.
There's a song called Running in the Dust.
Okay.
That's one of my favorite songs to sing as a rock singer.
Okay.
Here,
All right.
Let me see if I can punch you up just 3 seconds of the beginning and you'll understand why. Go ahead with the questions though. What's the next one?
I was gonna say 5 CDs because we don't have records anymore. 5 CD or 5. We don't have CDs anymore. What the hell am I saying? I'm aging myself. 5 recordings you could take. That you're on an island. You get 5 recordings to bring. That's it. You got to go to this island. You can't bring any more records. You only get 5 recordings. What are they?
Oh man, no one's ever asked me questions like this before.
Yeah, I saw another podcast where they did stuff like this. I'm like, okay, this is kind of fun.
I'd bring a couple of operas, but I'd have to limit it to like maybe 1 or 2 if that's all I got was 5.
You got 5 records.
Then I'd have to bring a couple of classic Dio or Dio singing with Sabbath albums like Heaven and Hell.
How about Rainbow? Deal with Rainbow?
Yeah, I mean that works too. But I'm preferential to the later style. And I'd bring a couple of Keith Jarrett trio CDs.
Why don't I know that?
Jazz.
Okay.
Because when I am critically listening outside and I want to play with my stereo, if I play anything that there's any singing in, I go into. I can't listen to it. I go into work mode.
I hear you. Yeah.
The only thing I can play that has no vocals is jazz.
Yeah. It's hard as we get older. It's harder for me to enjoy music and just sit and enjoy. I envy my friends. I have some friends back in Connecticut, my best friends, that they're not musicians and they just still you go to their house and there's records all over the floor and then they just pick up a record and play one. I'm like, that's like me. I can't do it.
Here we go. You ready?
I can hear a little bit of it. Yeah, go ahead.
Give this a listen. I'll just play you the intro.
Oh, yeah, check.
Listen to a couple of lines from this. Here, let me skip this ahead a little bit. Listen to this.
Oh, yeah.
He just pulls that out in the middle of the song.
Yeah.
Ralph This is Ralph. Stop. This is Ralph. Guy's name. Guy's name is Ralph Sheepers.
Ralph Sheepers.
You know what? I mean, this is some incredibly. I mean, I love. This is the style of metal that I always.
It says, yeah, I get it. It's like a cross. That sounded. The riff sounded like Accept. As soon as I heard it, I thought it was Accept. That was so Accept, dude. So I was like, I used to love those guitar sounds. The singing.
Was there a greater entrance to a really classic heavy metal song than Balls to the Wall? The way they got the guitars played it.
Yeah, it was great.
That is just absolutely classic.
Yep.
I'm in the gym, I got my headphones on, I'm cranking that stuff.
That just reminds me of it, like that style. And then the singing comes in, and it's like Halford-esque. It's got that.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's cool, man. Well, how can people get a hold of you, whether they're a rock or an opera singer, to maybe study with you?
Website is really easy. It's just my name. It's really easy. CraigSirianni.com, because I'm the only Craig Sirianni in the United States, apparently, except for one other guy who lives in California.
Oh, spell Sirianni.
Sirianni. 1 R, 2 N's.
Okay.
There's the web page. You can look me up on Facebook. I've got a professional page on Facebook. I mean, it's easy. It's easy to find me. Easy.
Cool. Cool. And are you accepting new students currently?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's always, it's always usually fairly full, but yeah, I always am. Listen, even if I have to work on weekends, I work on weekends. I don't care. Doesn't make any difference. I love doing this. For guys like us, or for guys like me, it's not like we have a pension. It's not like we have a retirement plan. So, we got to keep teaching. We got to keep working. Thank God, I love doing what I'm doing. I should be getting up every morning and doing the happy dance every day, because I get to work out of my house. I get to do what I love.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's all about working on the gratitude list. So. Yeah.
That's great, man. All right. This was Real Singers on Singing number 6,422,000. We'll see you on the next one. I'm Daniel Formica. You can find me at yourvocalteacher.com. And that was awesome, man. It's good to see you.
I love you, brother. Thanks, man. I always enjoy these. I really do. Anything you need, call me.
Stay on. I'm going to cut this thing. See you, everybody. Peace.